kind of hit and miss. And by that, I just mean if it's a podcast, for example, they might talk about the team model every 5 or 6 episodes, and they're talking about other things along the way.
Right.
So this is exclusively real estate team leaders all of the time, how they built their business, why they did it the way that they did, the guts of it, operations, accountability, profitability, et cetera. And so
hello and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Influencers, where we bring you professionals who share insight into the latest trends, tips, industry technology, and services to help you be a mortgage influencer in your mortgage business. Well, we're getting started here. It is Wednesday, so I want to welcome all of you to the Mortgage Influencer podcast. My name is Ginger Bell, and I have my co-host, one of my co-hosts, Steve Richmond, with me today. Hello, Steve.
I just want to say, as we start, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Start it early, be thankful early. Happy Thanksgiving to all.
I love it. And you know what? Before I introduce our guest today, let's talk about that. And if you're listening, hey, we're a week before Thanksgiving of 2023. So just a little time reference there. For those of you who are joining us, yes, happy Thanksgiving. We will not be having a call next week. So we're going to give everyone a holiday. I will be out of town, actually out of the country. I'm going to Cabo, actually San Jose del Cabo. For a week with my brother. It's like we used to spend Thanksgiving in Montana, where he has a cabin, and we decided to opt for something warmer. So.
Well, I'm going to Baltimore with my family, my extended family, so I don't feel like I'm in a different country or different planet, if you will.
And
so
who knows what the weather will be. Exactly. Okay, well, it is Wednesday, so that means another live episode of Mortgage Influencers. I want to welcome our guest today, Ethan Beute. Hello, Ethan.
Hey, great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you. So some of you, if you're watching the video, you probably know Ethan, especially if you followed him on some of his podcasts that he's done. Ethan is with Follow Up Boss, and I'm excited to hear about this because it is a business that's been around for a little while. New to you, Ethan. You've been with them for a few months. But before we really get into that, I want to talk about really the impact that you've had, Ethan, long-term on the mortgage and the real estate industry, because you have a background around video. I know you and I have had conversations. I've been on your podcast. Video and obviously edge marketing is near and dear to my heart. So if you don't know Ethan, he has 2 books out. And if you don't have his books, I would really recommend getting his books, especially right now, because I think working on our business, making sure we're doing the things to be able to connect with real estate agents, to be able to stay top of mind, and video is that. So Ethan, real quick, what are the 2 books and where can we find them?
Sure. Thank you for that. The most recent one is called Human-Centered Communication, and it's a framework for connecting and communicating despite all of the noise and pollution that pervades all the channels that we're trying to connect with people through, whether that's email, social DMs, video calls, all of these places that we're trying to connect and communicate. We can be doing it all better. So along with my longtime friend and team member, Steve Pastanelli, we designed a framework around it and brought a number of experts into that conversation. So that's Human-Centered Communication, a business case against digital pollution. The earlier one is really the what, why, who, when, and how of video, email, and video messages, called Rehumanize Your Business: How Personal Videos Accelerate Sales and Improve Customer Experience. So Rehumanize Your Business and Human-Centered Communication are available in all the places, Amazon being probably the easiest, and they should not be too hard to find.
Yeah.
And Ethan, since we are on video right now, just point over your shoulder and show them the awesome books that are sitting there right there. You go.
There they are.
So if anytime during this conversation you're like, that was awesome, what was the name of his book again? Just look over the guy's shoulder and you got it.
Yeah. Well, and Human-Centered Communication, we did with a gorgeous gloss and emboss on the cover. So it's got like a little shine to it.
I love it. Well, and, oftentimes, especially for loan originators, if they're looking for something to be able to share with their real estate agents, to be able to maybe we do a lot of podcast production ourselves. And so, that would be something good to think about. It's like if you're going to do a coffee, and want to be able to have a conversation, those would be good books to be able to maybe start a book club or, do a reading or, different things like that. I'm always looking for ways to stand out. So,
and I'll make an offer. If anyone does start a book club with 3 members or more, reach out to me. It's just Ethan@followupboss.com. And I'd be happy to join you for the first or the last session of that if you're doing it virtually.
wow, that's huge.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
that's
these
major.
ideas are important, and the club concept is great because it's got built-in accountability, and you can also make your own meaning out of it. And depending on what ties you together with the people around you, whether it's your, the other LOs that you work with or alongside regularly, or some disparate group of mixed professionals, whatever brings you together, that conversation around the material makes it more valuable for everyone.
Well, and that's really a good idea. I mean, you think about, we're at the end of November, coming up into December. What a great idea to think about starting something for the first of the year, where you say, hey, you know what? And I don't know how many chapters are in the book, but it's like, if you don't want to take on a book a month, which is a major undertaking, if you want to say, you know what, this is the book we're going to focus on for the year, and just take a chapter once a month and do a group call. You could, I mean, I don't know, go into different offices and do something like that. I mean, it's like, and this is what I love about it. Nobody else is doing something like that, or probably very few people are doing something like that. So I like doing different things. And people are looking for, especially real estate agents, they want something different, right? I mean, they need help. And so to
Big
be able
word
to
there, different, something different. Absolutely.
yeah, something different that's positive. I think hopefully we're seeing, some light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know. Numbers are out good that are good. It looks like all of the rates increases that we've been going through has, not necessarily, gone in the other direction, but at least slowed things down. So gas prices are down, flights are down. I mean, all those things are down. So, it's like maybe there is a little bit of light. Bring some positivity to it. Right. Okay. So I want to hop in. So 2 things. And Ethan, you can talk about, we're very open as far as whatever you want to talk about. So if you have something, say, Ginger, I really want to talk about this. It's like, we are fine with that.
I'll follow your lead and your curiosity.
Well,
and of course, anybody who's online, type in any questions you have. If you want us to talk about anything, be part of the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're watching us on Zoom, because I know we have a lot of people that do, you can type in the Q&A or the chat. And then obviously, if you're watching on Facebook, which you have a lot of people that do, you can type into the chat there as well. But I want to start off with, because I don't know a lot about Follow Up Boss. So, and for you to make a move, and when I saw that happen, it's like, oh, Ethan is very smart. What is going on here? And so, that's the thing. It's like, look for what people are doing in the direction they're going that you have respect for and follow. And I do that with you. So I'm very excited to hear about what transpired as far as Follow Up Boss.
Well, that's very, very kind of you to say. I appreciate that so much. I had been at BombBomb, where I wrote both of those books. I started the Customer Experience podcast, which you, Ginger, have been a guest on. I'd been there for almost a dozen years. And in any journey like that, by the way, for folks who aren't familiar with the software business, like a dozen years at a software company is like at dog years or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not very common is the point. And so I had, at various stages of that journey, you look around, you say, okay, have I done what I'm supposed to do here? And obviously, in a growing company, we almost had almost no customers, no revenue when I joined BombBomb in 2011 to, where I left off, which was, a bootstrap company, well past 20 million in revenue, 100 employees or so and tens of thousands of customers. And as you mentioned off the top, a lot of them in real estate and mortgage. And we can get into why and what that is, because I still believe completely. That's what both of the books are about. As I mentioned, I still believe in these concepts deeply, but I had a really unique opportunity to join Follow Up Boss. A longtime friend of mine, in fact, the co-author on both of these books, Steve Passanelli, had joined them a few months prior And of course, anyone you work with for 8 years side by side every day and do things like write books with, you stay in heavy contact with. And he just saw an opportunity, like a really unique opportunity to leverage what I love the most about my work and to solve a problem at that, or capitalize on an opportunity more so, at Follow Up Boss. And so he had a vision for it. We talked about it a little bit, and at a certain point, it just made sense for me to do it. And a key part of that was starting a new show around real estate teams. The team model is not new to real estate, but still here we are, probably 5 to 10 years into its very clear and obvious ascent as a perfectly viable and, in fact, wonderful business model for a lot of people, either to join a team or to start a team of their own. But the education around it was pretty limited. You either had to pay for coaching, which I encourage people to do. Paying for coaching and mentorship and groups and masterminds and things is a really great thing to do. But a lot of people want something more available and or less expensive. And a lot of the other material that was out there was kind of hit and miss. And by that, I just mean if it's a podcast, for example, they might talk about the team model every 5 or 6 episodes, and they're talking about other things along the way.
Right.
So this is exclusively real estate team leaders all of the time, how they built their business, why they did it the way that they did, the guts of it, operations, accountability, profitability, et cetera. And so I love the conversational format of a podcast. So it's YouTube and all the podcast channels, and then social as a consequence, and really creating a curriculum that is approachable to anyone who wants to learn about it, whether they're in real estate or not.
So
go ahead, Steve.
You said team. I think teams they're very similar in the mortgage world as they are the real estate world. I don't think that they're totally separate concepts. So boom, let's get practical. Give me one best practice for team setup and one mistake that you see commonly happening when it comes to teams.
Yeah, I think that, a lot just came to mind there really quickly. One of the biggest challenges that comes up all of the time is the team leader who's deciding whether and when to leave sales production and become a full-time leader for a variety of reasons. One, typically kind of that high D type A personality, that's really, just crushing it, selling, let's just say, not this year, but let's say, 3, 5, 8 years ago, selling 150 houses on their own with a part-time assistant, that type of person who's just like grinding. In that move, it's a completely new skill set. Leading a team, managing people, helping people become better versions of themselves and help them produce more is completely different than the service work of a high producing loan officer or a high producing real estate agent. And that's not to be taken lightly. The other issue too is that from a cash flow perspective, you're very often trading off volume and production in that move. And certainly in an uncertain market like this one, it's even more challenging to figure out when and how to do that. So you have this hard driving person who may not be super patient. They have all their processes, but a lot of those processes are in their head. They need to figure out when and how to document those, who to offload those to, how to stay patient as you document some of those processes, start handing them over to other people and watching them do it, but only do it at 65% of the quality or speed or volume that you were doing it. Like that requires a lot of patience, and that personality type, very often that's a learned skill or a muscle to develop, that patience is. And so that's one that comes up on a number of conversations. And so that was the first thing that came to mind. And then there were also a number of people, I'm thinking of 3 or 4 of them off the top of my head. I launched this show about a month ago with 3 episodes a week. So there are a lot of episodes already.
Wow.
And it's a lot of work, but absolute joy. A number of folks have said, you know what, I am leading the team, but I've opted not to leave production. And sometimes when I'm recruiting agents, they feel like I might be competitive with them, but they should be thankful for it because it makes me a better partner in their business. It makes me a better coach. It makes me a better mentor, if that's the nature of our relationship, because I'm truly in touch with the market. And in a market like today's, if you stepped out of production in 2021 and you're trying to coach based on the last 10 transactions you did, it has absolutely no relationship with the market that people are experiencing today. And so this idea of staying in touch with the market and not just cherry picking the $5 million listings. I mean, that's not it either. But finding the right way to do it a lot of people are staying in production, even though it costs them a little bit of the time and attention that they might be devoting to the business itself from a guts perspective, or to the agents that are producing a lot of the revenue.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, and when you look at that, because with the change that obviously has happened in the industry, on both the mortgage and the real estate side, for some of those, they may have left that production and now had to come back into that production for a lot of different reasons. And so that can be a challenge as well, to be able to say, okay, now I'm hopping back in and doing that. So if someone just, and because you're starting this podcast, what are you saying if someone is saying, okay, I want to develop a team? What's the very first step as far as what they need to do to create a team?
It depends on what your driver is. The most common, and by the way, what you observe there, stepping out of production, trying to lead the team, figuring out that, the volume isn't what it was before because these people aren't who I am. And I'm frustrated by that, but I've, put all this leverage around these other people, and that's, costing me at the bottom line. Should I step back? A lot of people do, because they don't like this idea of exclusively leading a team and building a team, or, the fear or anxiety or the reality of we just need sales.
Right.
And I'm the best one to do it.
And for some, it's very much that. It's like, it is, it's like all hands on deck. We just need sales. And so getting back into that, and we're definitely seeing a lot of that.
Yeah. So starting a team, it depends on what your driver is. The most common story I've heard, and I don't think that it's one that we'll hear a lot for someone today, is, I just had too much opportunity. And at a certain point, I was kind of giving them away or doing some kind of referral fee agreements. And at a certain point, either my broker told me I should start a team, or my friend told me I should start a team, or it occurred to me. And so it really is, the levers, of course, are, if you have leads, then you need more agents, or you need more leverage for yourself. A team could be a showing assistant and another part-time assistant and you, right? That's a team. So it depends on your ambition, and different people have taken different routes, but the fastest growth that was happening, of course, the past decade has been pretty good for everybody up until recently. And so those are a lot of the stories that I've been collecting so far, as people that started their teams, 2012, 2014, 2011, 2016, et cetera. So it's a different climate, but they had so much opportunity that they typically would bring along buyer's agents and keep the listings for themselves. That's a very common move. So there are a lot of different paths to it. It depends what you want to do, and it depends on what your circumstance is. You don't start it because you want to be a team leader. You start it because you have to. Right. If I want to take my business where I want it to go, and I can't get there the way that I'm structured now as a solo agent, or in whatever environment I'm in, then I may need to identify my strengths. Self-awareness is I guess the first place to start. What are my strengths? What are my interests? What are my passions? What am I actually really good at? What do I actually want to build? And what are the next couple of steps there? And so you'll hear some people say leverage marketing first. You'll hear other people say leverage your time, again, with maybe a showing assistant or a transaction coordinator to kind of run the guts. But it just depends what you like to do and what you don't like to do, what you're really good at, what you're not good at. And perhaps the costs of these different things as you start going down that road. Like, is this worth it? Is this the next right step for me? Every story is unique.
Well, and so the industry, thank you for that. But the industry, the market, all those things can affect a decision like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we were in the green room before we went live, Steve had brought up the elephant in the room. And so, nobody really knows what direction this is going to take, right? But it could have a huge impact on what an agent looks like and what their capacity is. And so, Steve, I'm going to let you, because I know this is a big conversation for you. So, what are you kind of seeing, hearing, thinking, with this?
Well, what I keep getting back to is the role of especially the buyer's agent is what's going to change. And the question then becomes, is it now all going to be put upon the seller listing agent? who's going to be doing all of that, and are they going to be bringing buyers agents in to be part of their team? So it's
Right.
It's lock stock that you're all in one place, or are you still looking at these separate type of entities? So then I say back to Ethan, when you're setting up a team, I get that you say fill where your weaknesses are. So if you're not the marketing person and you're the salesperson, go on and get the marketing person that's going to be on your team. Do you like people having similar work styles, approaches, mindset, working together, or do opposites actually attract? So I'm going back to that sellers and buyers agent of they really look at the deal, the transaction, if you will, so differently. How does that work, Ethan? Are you looking at opposites attract, or and fulfill that weakness? Or are you going, nope, get people just like you because you were successful? If they have the right mindset, you will be a locomotive that nobody can stop.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I like the way that you framed it. Really quickly, of course, this NAR lawsuit situation on buyer, seller, commissions, et cetera. There's a lot to be decided there, but I think anytime you see a result with $1 billion around it, it perks up the ears of a variety of lawyers. We're going to see a lot more of that stuff being pursued. We'll see how it all settles out. Nobody knows. But I think at a minimum right now, we need to be thinking about what is the true value of, and this is something I was talking about for years. The reason why you belong in more of your digital communication via video is it needs to be clear what your value is. What value do you bring to this situation? Now, to your specific question, Steve, I advise around, and a lot of people are doing this. Like they're picking up a framework like EOS or Pinnacle or Scaling Up or similar. EOS is probably the most familiar one, Entrepreneur's Operating System, and most of them have some version of what I call a scorecard. There's different language depending on what who you follow, but for each role, you develop a scorecard. What does success look like? How will it be measured? What are some of the key skills or competencies or personality types that will serve these functions best? I do think diversity is the right way on average. But I've also heard stories of, we built instead of hiring one inside sales agent, I hired 3 at a time. So I developed a scorecard. I went out to the market. I posted the position. I interviewed a bunch of people and I brought 3 of them on. Now, these 3 different people are all a little bit different, but they're all hired to do the same role. And they all have the same basic, skills and drive that we want to see. Hiring an ISA is not the same as hiring a transaction coordinator, right? Mm-hmm. Very different activities, very different skill sets, very different personality types. So diversity is key across the team and probably even within a role to some degree. And I think being really clear on what that role is and what success looks like, and having at least a semi-annual revisit of that scorecard and each person's performance relative to that scorecard. That should be happening, by the way, on a weekly basis with staff members, like full-time staff members versus sales producers. That should be happening weekly, but reviewing the scorecard itself quarterly or semi-annually is generally best practice for making sure that the person, right seat, doing the right work is the goal. But of course, that's also a little bit holy grail, kind of like the right message to the right person at the right time. It's what we're all aspiring to. It's never perfect, right. But you have to have perfection to aspire to as the North Star, I think.
And Ginger, it always seems to come back to AI in our conversations. So
I
when
love
you're
this
having
topic.
Those scorecards and those job descriptions, I think AI is something that can really help you do that as well.
Well, in networking and begging and borrowing and stealing and adapting, there is no shame in taking something off the shelf and basically adapting it to your situation, or, using AI in that process as well. Perfectly fair.
One of the things though, and I obviously own a business. I have a team, my own team. And so you mentioned something about following up with them weekly. And it's like, as an entrepreneur, it's hard to be able to do that. So tell me
the
about
sales producer in your business.
Yeah.
You're probably the primary lead generator, and you're also the primary service provider.
Yeah.
right? I mean, now you've leveraged aspects probably of both of those as well as other functions.
Right.
Maybe you
And
do
I
your
mean,
own
there's
bookkeeping, but I
capacities
assume
that I
not.
have. Yeah. But so I'm interested. It's like, so follow up boss, tell me, because I have a feeling that that's probably something, if you're talking with teams and things like that, that offers a solution to be able to help salespeople like myself. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a high D, sometimes too high.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
D.
you're one of these people who's like right in that zone, and that's why it's hard for you to find time to provide coaching and guidance to the team
Yeah.
members around you on their performance and this type of thing. I totally missed this when you teed it up for me off the top. Follow Up Boss is a real estate CRM, is the simplest way to say it. The thing that has differentiated over the past decade, dozen years actually, is that it's completely open and flexible. Whereas a lot of the other CRM solutions in the space are about also providing IDX, also providing lead gen services, and really being this all-in-one box scenario. Follow Up Boss took a completely different philosophical approach from day one, which is plug anything in, unplug it when it doesn't work for you. As you change, as your business changes, as your team grows, whatever the case may be, you can add and remove different aspects into the CRM, but you as a leader, your ops people as ops people, and your sales producers all have the same CRM all the time. Switching a CRM is obviously a massive pain, no matter the size or scale of your business. And so in this way, you can build and change your team and build and change the tech stack that's feeding on one-way or two-way data syncing in and out of the same core system all of the time. Of course, it's loaded with smart lists and automations and things like that to help you do different things for different constituents and to surface the right opportunities at the right time. But this open and flexible concept has attracted a number of people who are very intentional and aggressive about growing their businesses, and a lot of them included real estate team leaders.
I love
Which is
that.
how we
Going back-
landed on Real Estate Team OS. Let's talk more to and about and for those people, because there are some of the people that are leveraging the platform the most effectively.
Right. Well, and sharing that information, because I think, getting into that whole mindset, it is a different conversation. And, Steve, you're always great at teeing up those questions and thinking about that, because you don't always have a conversation with someone about that's another team lead, right? Especially for real estate agents, because it's like, it's competition. I'm not going to do that. So having that to where it's a podcast and people are sharing, and it's interesting because people do share on podcasts. And so having
As
that,
I often say, Ginger, I'm my favorite topic to talk about. Right? I mean, you put somebody on a podcast to talk out there, they're happy to share their stuff. One-on-one, not so much, but if they're talking about them in
right.
front of others, they love it.
Yeah. But those conversations are important. And I think especially right now, anytime we have such a paradigm shift that we're having, not just in terms of just everything that's happening in the industry, but this NAR lawsuit will have an impact. As far as however it's decided and nobody really knows, it will have an impact. So whenever you have a paradigm shift like this is the time, whether you are a team lead, have been a team lead, or thinking about a team lead, that you want to pay attention. And so paying attention to technologies like Follow Up Boss that can easily streamline something. And I love the flexibility of it. I do a lot of LMS development and create a lot of learning management systems and, entire courses for companies. And so having that flexibility is so important to be able to move around. So I absolutely love that. So we're almost at the top of the hour, and I always like to kind of keep us at 30 minutes. We would love to have you back, Ethan. So if you will be a guest again, we'd love to have you back and to continue the conversation. But what I want to do is have you leave with two things. The first thing is right now, if you're listening to this podcast, we have obviously a lot of loan originators. What's the one thing as they're talking to real estate agents that they can focus on or have a conversation about that can really help agents right now? What's the thing that you're saying that would be that one thing?
Yeah, I just did my notes for episode 9, which features a gentleman named Daniel Dixon who has added a mortgage company alongside his real estate company. And I asked him that question directly. What do more agents need to know about mortgage loan officers? What do more loan officers need to know about real estate agents? And really, it's bringing down the wall on the mortgage process. As a loan originator, your real estate agents may be a little bit resistant to it, but the more you can bring them behind the variable factors in pre-approvals, right? Like the different ways to factor, the income is factored, right? That's going to make them better consultants to their clients. The more an LO can educate a real estate agent about some of, not everything, but like some of the key decisions, why things slow down, why things stop, like be very intentional. You don't have to do it in a patronizing way, but most real estate agents don't really care to, don't tell me about it. Like, I don't really care to know all those details, but if you can welcome them in points where it will help the agent look better to their clients and serve their buyers more effectively, sellers perhaps even too, and of course to make the transaction go more smoothly, the better off they'll be. I know that's not very market specific. That's true in any market, but the trends that an LO is seeing today in terms of things that are slowing things down, things that are stopping, interesting factors in the pre-approval process, given, the higher rates and things, the more they can educate agents on how to educate their clients, the more value they're providing and the more likely they are to get more business from that person.
I love that. Such great advice. So a couple of things. First of all, start a book club. Ethan has some great books. You can go to Amazon and search for those. Rehumanize and then the Human Centered. Both would be good book clubs. And then Ethan, how can people follow you on your podcast?
Cool. Yeah. Podcast is Real Estate Team OS. It's at realestateteamos.com, youtube.com/@realestateteamos. It's Real Estate Team OS on Instagram and TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. And you can hit me up. It's just Ethan, ETHAN BEUTE. LinkedIn's probably the best. But I'm on most of the social networks that way. And of course, I share a lot of the work that I'm doing, so you'll have access to it that way as well.
Awesome. And if they want to find out more, if they're in real estate about Follow Up Boss, they can go to
followupboss.com. And again, if you start that book club, email me, ethan@followupboss.com. I'll give you a chapter by chapter breakdown, like how to do it in sections. So the sections make sense. And I'll join you for the first or the last session if you're doing it virtually.
I love that. Well, thank you for that. That's a great offer, you guys. Take them up on it. Absolutely. So thank you, Ethan, so much. Always good to see you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. Steve?
Thanks, everybody. I just enjoy our Wednesdays together, and Ethan made this a great Wednesday, so thank you.
We do. And you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we will see you after Thanksgiving. We have two special guests. We have Devin Dubuque and David Nguyen, who have a podcast that they do, which is Real Estate Success Partners. So they're going to be a guest and round us out for the end of November. So thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.